Hi, welcome back to another video. This one's going to be my tour, Master Pro A this week. I've got another round at Waikiki coming up, and you can see there's a Waikiki game flying past in the background. I played Kit Kat from the Frenchstars Guild earlier in the week. We played 3 games actually. This was, from Kit Kat's point of view, the best one, so I thought I'd post it up and you can see how he got on. Really good solid round from Kit Kat. I made a few mistakes and he did manage to win quite comfortably in the end. I've slowed it down. There was a couple of key holes and some really good shots. In particular, I think this putt that's just coming up now didn't actually go in, but if it had, it would have been one of the best putts I've ever seen. It was an absolutely impossible putt. Came really close. The game was won and lost really on the 5th hole, which I think I bogeyed and Kit Kat took a birdie. I was playing catch up the rest of the way through, but considering the previous 2 games had been pretty one-sided in my favour actually, I think Kit Kat did really well this this round to play a solid, no mistakes game, some really good shots, and we'll kind of, when it gets there, see a fantastic approach on the 9th. It was pretty much all over by then, but it was a really good way to tie it up. He played that hole fantastically well in a 5-yard crosswind. This one I played awfully, and Kit Kat again as the round. The story of the round really was solid, no mistakes, steady birdie, and that's how you win at Waikiki. You don't make mistakes. So we'll be going on to my tour round next. The idea is potentially I'm going to play all 4 rounds in tour, although it's Sunday now. I'm not sure I'll get the chance. I've only played the 1 round, but I'll attempt to put a couple of decent rounds in today, and we'll see how I get on. But yeah, on the subject of if anyone wants to give me a game, I would really like to get some really good rounds. So again, I mean, this was a good solid round at Waikiki. I'd love to get somebody hitting close to perfect. It's not necessarily this course. You'll be forgiven if you've watched my previous videos for thinking there's only one course in the game. To be honest, this one I gave Kit Kat the choice of courses. I was kind of hoping he would select something other than Waikiki, but he didn't. Hence, this is the course we played. But you'll see I slow it down now again. This was the approach I was talking about at the 9th. It was pretty much all over anyway, but even so, if you look at the shot Kit Kat plays in there, absolutely tremendous way to finish it off. So very impressive stuff. So well done, Kit Kat. Thanks for the round. Anyone else fancies a round, please let me know. Again, ideally, I would like to get, if there's a tricky course that you play for your your prep round in the guild battle, or just you've got a favourite course, ideally not Kyoto or Interlaken, one of these, a course where getting a really good score is a bit of a challenge. I would love to play. You don't have to have massive stats. Anyone who can put 16, 17 under at Sequoia in from any tee, I'd love to to play around with you. Or just let me know if there's something you fancy doing, and we'll see if it's something we can arrange. So thanks again for Kit Kat, great round. We'll maybe play again sometime. So on now with my Master Pro A, which this week is, I'm going to start off with the 4th round, which again is going to be Waikiki, but I'm going to try and make this my last Waikiki video for some time. So as you can see, I've had a few goes at this round already. This is my second from last attempt, my 4th attempt. I've put an 11 in under in. It's a bit of a safety net. I've abandoned a couple of rounds after some mistakes which kind of ended the round really. So this is, you'll often see this pin, really tricky one, because you've got to try either bounce it over, which is one way of doing it. I've not had much success. I tend to hit the bunker more often than not, so I tend to go for the tree, but the risk there is you catch the tree, it bounces on that red part of the green which is inclined very heavily away from you, and it will roll off the green on the other side. So what I'm doing, I'm playing a 2-iron power shot here, and I'm just trying to hit the tree. You'll notice I'm speeding up past my many attempts to try and hit the line. I'd actually had a few drinks when I put this round in last night, so I was having real trouble hitting the lines, but managed to pull it off. So that's just about what I wanted, but exactly as I was talking about, you'll see it just creeps off the green. So what would be a fairly regulation birdie is now quite a tricky chip to try and make birdie. I think in the other 3 attempts I didn't make birdie here at all. I always need a bit of luck to make this one. It's probably a better way of doing it is to bounce it on, but I've not quite worked that shot out yet. But I've had a little bit of luck sometimes with holding the green here in just goodwill games, etc. But as you can see, not far away, but not quite close enough. So started off with a par. Sorry, would have been nice to get a birdie, but a bonus. The 2 par 3s at Waikiki are both tricky. I mean, this one's a 420-yard pin, and that's par 3. So quite difficult to get accuracy from that range. So start off with a par onto the second. If you've got the distance, this hole isn't hugely tricky. There's no great obstacles in your way. It's all just about getting the right distance. And I'd actually equipped the 15-yard tees and 10-yard balls for this one. If you've watched my other video regarding the driving distance, I'm just starting to hit that now, the kind of glass window limit for how far you can actually hit the ball. Does seem to be like a limit in place in the game now, but I'm just about at the range where the extra distance balls and tees do make a difference. The only consideration here is a bit of a lip in front of the green, so you have to put enough on it to get past that, but if you put too much on it, the green will slope away from you and it'll quite easily fly off the other side. So I was fairly happy to put that within 5 yards. So a fairly well lined up putt. It just means a minor adjustment with the guide, and that should be an eagle. So 2 under after 2, a solid start. The target I'm going for is 13 under. The gentleman who's winning the league, winning this round, sorry, at this moment in time, has 13 under with fairly good points as well. So my hope was to try and make 14 under or better. I don't think I've ever made a 14 under at Waikiki, but this is the first time I've really played it with any practice and really trying to nail a really good round. So that was my hope. I think I might have managed a 12 under, possibly a 13 under, but maybe from a shorter tee. But because the game doesn't remember your personal bests at the moment of this course, it's quite tricky to see. So this one, when I'd failed in a couple of earlier rounds, it was trying to play a straight shot and I kept catching the tree. So I opted for the safe shot here, which was to just catch the rough, roll onto the fairway and have I suppose a chance at an eagle, but a very slim chance. Just going to play a flop shot. You'll notice it's running down away from me, so I'm kind of considering it's going to finish past the hole, but I really don't want to catch the fringe in front of the green and leave a horrible downhill putt. So I'd much rather go long than short here, which is what I do. It wasn't a bad line actually. If I'd been a bit further right, I might have had a chance of putting that in for eagle, but fairly happy with that. And a solid enough birdie. So when playing, I have to think, okay, I'm going for 13 under. A perfect round, as in if I birdie where I should birdie, eagle where I could birdie, eagle where I could eagle, that would be 16 under. So I'm already kind of 2 shots down of that. So I can only really afford one more mistake in the next 6 holes. This par 5 isn't too bad from this tee. From the lower tees, you'll see me driving for the bit of fairway on the left there, but can't quite reach that. So what I'm playing here is just a 2 wood. I'm considering that bunker. Obviously the wind's going to push it off to the left a bit, and I think I have a little adjustment here just because I've got that in mind. As it was, I was well clear of that bunker, I think. But better safe than sorry, so I'm just going to try and land it on the green stuff, or the fairway, and have a think about putting it close with the approach. I'm on the borderline here whether I can backspin it. I think I decided to play a high shot. A backspin probably would have finished 10 yards short, which would have been short of that lump, that little hill you can see in front of the pin. So I'd rather be the other side of that, kind of in between the 2 red areas, would be the best place to putt from. What you'll also notice here, the ball's going to kick left, and there's also a right to left wind, so you would think this is probably, I should have adjusted a bit more to the right. Just from experience, it doesn't seem, I think the contours of the green don't really seem to go as far left as you think. If you watch this approach, it's just rolling on pretty straight, and that was only 1.5 yards away. Good for points, so if it does come down to points at the end, that could be key. but more importantly a regulation eagle, and then we'll be on to the 5th, which is, if you're going to make a mistake on this hole, it's often here. And in fact, if you watch the speeded up version of my game with Kit Kat, it was my my downfall in that game. I think I put it in the water, and in the end that was probably the key to me losing. So not sure what the hold up is here. I was probably getting another drink. I did this last night. Had a couple of cans whilst playing, which I don't often do in the house, but it didn't seem to affect my game too badly. Okay, so you'll have noticed again when I play this from the first tee, I kind of whack it at the middle tree with a pitching wedge. I think a pitching wedge power shot. I'd done a little bit of practice on this before, and I think I play a similar shot but with a 7-iron, if I remember rightly. Let's just see. I think a 7-iron power shot is probably what I select here. So yeah, so you'll notice I'm not doing any thinking really about distance. I'm just trying to hit the tree, and I've worked out that more often than not that'll catch the tree, then bounce on the bit of rough there and trickle its way down onto the green. So that actually was a fantastic result. There's a lot of gambling involved with that. It often finishes somewhere similar to that, but it often doesn't as well. So any eagle here is always much appreciated. So I'm taking a bit of time over the putt, I expect. So I'm just looking at that gap in between the blue marker and the white marker on the hole, and just trying to replicate the same gap between the two markers on the left hand side there. I think I've settled around about on that distance, so it's now just a case of hitting the line, which I managed to do, and safely in for an eagle. So again, if I'm going to better 13 under, I really can't afford any more mistakes. But I think this hole shows it's not necessarily a mistake that you make. Sometimes you just don't have the distance, and here, even from the 5th tee, even with my stats and even with the 15-yard tees and 10-yard balls, I think I hit this as hard as I can. It possibly would have, if I'd aimed a bit further right, you would have seen it bounce and finish kind of front of the green on the right hand side there. It would have been a really tricky putt over that red area. So my thinking here was to hopefully bounce it just right of the bunker and maybe just trickle on and get a bit of help from that gradient to roll it down towards the pin. So again, no adjustments for distance. I'm just hitting it as hard as I can. I know it's not going to hit those trees in front. Again, I had a bit of practice at that. I misjudged the wind a bit here, as you can see. I needed to be a little bit further right, and I might have just crept on had I been, but I think I was just a couple of yards short there, to be honest. So that's left me a long speculative bunker shot. It would be nice certainly to put this in, which would keep me one shot ahead of the game insofar as 13 under being my target. Because if I do hit 13 under, then it's down to points as to whether or not I win the round, and potentially whether I have a chance of the tour this week. So obviously didn't put that in, so that means I've made all the mistakes that I can make. So unless I can get a hole in one or a chip in albatross or something like that, I need to be perfect from now on in, and also have points in mind to try and potentially outstrip the current leader in this round. So it was a nice one insofar as the guide had given me a marker right at the end of a short putter, so there was no chance of getting the distance wrong with that one. So you can see 8 under, 163 points after 6 holes, so it should put me in the 230, 240 range for points at the end. Now the second par 3 here, I think the 2 par 3s are probably the hardest holes, although to be honest, most of the holes here are tricky. I put a bit of practice in, and there's no substitute for that. If you're playing and you want to know what to do, hit the practice course. Although you don't get the chance to adjust the winds, you do get enough of an idea to give you a starting point for working out your shots. So what I'm doing here, I'd worked out, I think, that a high 4-iron full would kind of go off the back of the green in this type of wind. So you'll notice I don't really move the marker, but I think I hit it about 95%, I've obviously adjusted for the wind, and then it was a bit of finger crossing that the contours of the green put the ball somewhere near the hole, and I think the result I get is actually, yeah, pretty happy with that. A bit of luck, because if that had been a bit further forward, I think what it did is it pitched on an upslope, which slowed it down. If you pitch on a downslope, that could easily have gone off the back. So it's important to kind of know the areas of the green that you can hit, and what the ball's likely to do when you land it there. Another fairly straightforward putt, in that I can just hit it full power, don't need to worry about hitting the blue line. So that's a real bonus. Any birdie on the 2 par 3s is, again, probably a little bit ahead of the game. You need a little bit of luck, but also obviously the practice helps. So as it stands, I'm 9 under, 2 to play. This can be a tricky hole, this one, with that red raised area in front of the pin. What you want to try and do is get it over that, because it can be tricky to get it up and over the hill with a putt, and there's a bit of break on it. But equally, any over power and it's going to go off the back. I think, though, to be honest, I don't really have the power from this tee to get it off the back in this wind. So I suspect what you'll see is me just hitting a full 1 wood, which I do. And then it's again a case of hoping you've landed it about right to get over that lump in the green without it rolling off the back. As it stood, it kicked heavily off to the left, so I'm the other side of that hump, but I'm obviously, you can see the slope away. It's rolling down towards the back of the green. If I had got that on line, it would have been tricky to hold that. So actually not a bad position to putt from, and I've lined it up. Very happy with that. So I've actually lined that up pretty much bang on, and maybe underhit it slightly, so I was holding my breath a little bit here for it to miss to the left, but it was comfortably in. So 11 under onto the last. Now you'll see me here. There's a few, you see people play this all different ways. If you watched again the last video, Kit Kat from the first tee played it over that large kind of arch of rock onto a bit of fairway there and played a fantastic approach in. I conversely went right for the fairway on the left hand side and left myself really quite a tricky approach. It's something I should probably adjust here, but either way, what I'm doing from the 5th tee here is I'm aiming for that bit of fairway, not actually to hold it. It's very, very tricky. Even if you manage to bounce the ball on the rough to this side of that bit of fairway, it'll probably roll off the back. So all I'm thinking here is to bounce it probably on that fairway, it'll roll off the back, and I'll have a shot from the rough, which from 151 yards isn't too bad. Coming out the rough, anything over 200 plus yards is really tricky. But with this hole, the aim is really, you've got that big black rock which houses the green. So what I'm thinking here is I want to hit that rock. If you hit it fairly central, it shouldn't kick off left or right. It should just really loop up and go somewhere near the middle of the green. And as you can see here, that's what happens. If you get that too short, you're going to be in the sand at the front. If you get it too long, you're going to bounce on the green and go off the back. So, you know, it's really just a case again of working out how hard you should hit it. I've overpowered it quite a bit, as you saw there with my original shot. But again, that's just from experience. I knew that the flight of the ball would kind of catch that bit of rock. So navigated round 13 under, which certainly I would say is a record for me from the 5th tee, 244 points. Let's just see where that puts me on the leaderboard, whether or not I've got enough points to outstrip whoever was in first place before. As usual, nothing from the card flip at the end, and so we can see there I have made first, rank 1 at the bottom right, and if we have a look at the leaderboard, by 1 point, so that's a bit of a close one. So there's a couple of times when I hit a perfect approach or put a good approach in, which really counted there. Any one of those shots hadn't been bang on, then I wouldn't have made first place. So as it stands, I'm top in the 4th round. It's been a while since I've done a tour video. I did one, I think, from the Master Pro A from about a year ago, where I do something similar. I always tend to wait and then start with the harder rounds, because to be honest, if I don't win at least one of round 3 and 4, I'm not going to win the tour. The early rounds, they're not usually particularly difficult courses, so they tend to be a lot closer at the top, whereas rounds 3 and 4 are usually the harder courses, although Sands, I say, is debatable whether or not it should be in the same class as the likes of Copper and Rolling Hills and Safari. Either way, that's a good start. So I've now really, as long as I can win one of the other 3, hopefully round 3, I'm going to have a chance, although I do know there's already one 18 under from round 3, so that might be a bit of an ask. And there's also 16 under, I think, to beat at Sequoia out, and I presume 16 under at Sawgrass in from the 6th tee. So going to be a job. If I don't post any videos up, assume I didn't make it. If I do, then it's probably because I've put at least one more good round in. I'll probably not film or record the round at Sands, because I've got a few Sands rounds already on my playlist, recorded videos, but I don't think I've got any videos from, certainly from the 6th tee of Sawgrass in or Sequoia out, so I'll maybe try and see if I can capture a good round there. So I'll keep you posted on how I get on. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.